Hi, everyone. Welcome to Arena's on-demand video training series, Writing Your Political Resume. We are super excited to have you here and share these 4 short modules that are going to deep dive into everything you need to know to help your resume stand out in a crowded field. I am Heather Schmucker. I am the Director of Talent at Arena. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am originally from southwestern Pennsylvania on unceded Monongahela land, but currently live in Chicago on unceded Peoria land. I have a background as a former theater producer turned organizer, so shout out to all those career changers out there. I worked on campaigns for a while and then started to specialize in digital organizing, particularly peer-to-peer texting, which I did for several years before coming here to Arena. Resumes are my jam. I love looking at them. I love getting to help people make those resumes be as strong as possible. So I'm super excited to get to lead this training for you today. I want to dive into our session goals. In our first module, we are going to go over the goals of your resume, understanding what's the #1 goal that you need your resume to do for you, and specifically what are hiring managers looking for that you should be thinking about as you're creating your resume. Second, we're going to dive into format, thinking about how to format and structure your resume in the strongest way possible. Third, we're going to dive into writing. So learning how to write those really strong bullet points that highlight your experience in a clear, concise, and effective way, particularly showing your accomplishments. And then finally, we're going to spend some time in the 4th module diving into, now you've got your resume finished, what do you need to think about when you're delivering it to an employer, and how do we think about cover letters and writing the strongest cover letter possible? So before we dive into our first module, I want to share a little bit about who we are. If you're not familiar with Arena, Arena is an organization that convenes, supports, and trains the next generation of campaign staff and candidates. Our work focuses on changing who has access to the political space, and we're doing that by developing a really strong progressive talent pipeline. There are 3 main avenues of that pipeline. The first is Arena Academy. It's our flagship training program. We train current and aspiring campaign staffers and equip them with the skills, the knowledge, and the tools to build winning campaigns and movements. As of the 2022 cycle, we have trained more than 2,200 staffers, and that number will continue to grow as we roll out our training programs for 2023 and 2024. The next step in our pipeline is to connect our trained staffers to career opportunities on campaigns, in progressive organizations, and to amplify hiring opportunities for the entire progressive community at large. As I said, Arena trained staffers, we've got about 2,200 of them. They've held more than 2,000 roles on progressive campaigns or progressive organizations since the start of the Academy, and that includes nearly 550 in the 2022 cycle alone. So after attending Arena Academy, you gain access to a variety of services and support through our talent program that includes resume tools, networking, one-on-one career coaching, and Arena connections to employers who are hiring. We also support candidates directly through our Arena Staff Fellowship Program, which embeds and funds Arena trained staffers on critical state legislative races around the country. And finally, our work is to support the staffers who are currently working on campaigns, and we do that through the Arena Toolbox. It's a collection of free toolkits, tutorials, and templates for building winning campaigns. Our Toolbox has over 70, I think very close to 80 tools that address everything from campaign planning, fundraising, voter contact, hiring, job hunting resources, and more. So we are excited to have you here in the Arena community with us, and we want to dive right into this first module to talk about your resume improvement journey and what you should focus on as the #1 goal of your resume. So let's talk through that resume improvement journey. Knowing that we're all working on different aspects of our resumes, just want to take a moment to walk through how we're going to approach this today. We're going to spend the most time covering formats and all the tips to help make your resume concise, readable, and visually engaging for hiring managers. We're then going to spend a good chunk of time talking about writing. That includes how to write strong bullet points, how to focus on your accomplishments, not just your responsibilities. And at the end, we'll spend a few short moments on the best practices for delivering your resume to an employer and how to craft a strong cover letter. So what I want to say is wherever you are on this spectrum is okay, even if the answer is you haven't started and you're facing a blank page. I really just want you to let this content meet you where you are, pay particular attention to areas you feel you need to focus on the most, and know that you can continue to go back and revisit these modules as you build your resume. All right, so that question we asked at the beginning, what's the number one goal of your resume? And the number one goal of your resume is simply to get the interview. And I hope in sharing this that it takes a little bit of the pressure off, right? Often we feel so overwhelmed by our resumes. We feel like they have to communicate everything we've ever done, everything we've ever accomplished, every job we've ever had, every responsibility or community engagement we've ever taken part in. And that is just simply not the case. The goal of your resume is to get the interview, right? And so it wants to focus down on the things that are most resonant and relevant that connect your experience to what the hiring manager is looking for. Speaking of, it's really important to put ourselves in the position of the hiring manager and to have a sense of what they're dealing with when they're looking at your resume. So in a busy hiring cycle, like a midterm cycle that we're in right now, 2022, heading into 2023 and 2024, which will only get busier, hiring managers are often inundated with resumes, right? They're often hiring multiple roles at the same time, right? So in general, they're going to move pretty quickly. And what this means is hiring managers are going to skim for relevant experience as they've laid out in the job description. So they're going to scan your resume, not read it word for word, right? So you want to make sure that your skills and experiences really pop off the page. And we'll talk about how to do that. They're going to pass over resumes that are confusing or difficult to read. So if you've got a resume where there's a section that's just not making a ton of sense, that's really an off-ramp for a hiring manager. Really easy to set aside that resume and just say, I didn't quite get it. I'm gonna set that aside, right? So we want to make sure we don't have any of those off-ramps on our resume. They're always going to be checking for applicable skills, right? So they're going to be checking for the skills that you have on your resume and how those skills connect to the skills that they've articulated that they need as part of their search for this role. They're always going to prioritize clear, concise, and readable resumes. So you want to make sure that your resume fits that bill. And in general, they're going to resist jargon, a lot of jargony language. So in sharing this, I want to say, we're not saying all of these practices are right? We wish that every hiring manager had the time to spend 15 or 20 minutes with every resume and really dig in and really get to know the person. But it's just not realistic in the busy political cycles that we're working in. So know that your resume is going to get skimmed for probably 15 to 20 seconds, if that, in order for someone to make a decision. So we really need to think about what's going to pop out in that description, what kind of format is going to serve you best. And that's where we're headed next. So join us for module number 2, which is going to focus on formatting. It's a brief module to explore best practices for formatting your resume with a focus on what political hiring managers are looking for. I look forward to seeing you there.